When Skull and Bones was announced back in 2017, everyone was incredibly excited. The success of Assassin's Creed Black Flag left everyone wanting more, so when Ubisoft announced they were making a standalone version, players were hyped. What added to this was the cinematic and dark, gritty trailer that was released. Players were all on board. But unfortunately, Skull and Bones had a difficult development cycle, so this game never saw the light of day. It got pushed by a year, and then another year, and then Ubisoft went silent. Most people believed the game was cancelled, but Ubisoft said no, this game will release, but no one knew when. Now it's scheduled to release in November, and it's nothing like what was originally advertised back in 2017, so let's go through some of the major changes. But before we do get into the video, if you enjoy the content and want to see more from me, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Every week, we upload the latest news around Skull and Bones, and you definitely don't want to miss a single upload as we get closer to the release. Getting back into the video. In its simplest form, Skull and Bones was supposed to be a standalone version of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. That's what players wanted. They simply wanted to sail the open sea and be a pirate. Now, of course, an argument can be made that if players wanted Assassin's Creed Black Flag, they should just play Assassin's Creed Black Flag. The problem is, even though Black Flag is a pirate game, it's still an Assassin's Creed game at the heart and soul. 60% of the game is focused on land, and there's no multiplayer component to play with friends. The idea of Skull and Bones was to explore the other side using Black Flag technology. Build a pirate game that focused more on naval combat rather than hand-to-hand, as well as adding a multiplayer component so players can team up with their friends. Of course, it's a game at the end of the day, but players were hoping for a somewhat realistic pirate experience, and that first trailer showed exactly that. Ubisoft was doing everything right in the beginning. This was further backed up with gameplay aligned with the players' expectations. A dark, gritty pirate game where players can sail the open sea solo or with friends. And even though what will be delivered in November will still be a pirate game, it's not what was originally advertised. One of the biggest complaints about Skull and Bones is it's lost its authenticity. The dark and gritty pirate game that was promised now seems like an arcade game with very clunky gameplay. An example of this is naval combat. In the gameplay that is shared when it's not being cut up to look good in the gameplay sequence, it seems boring and dull, but the bits that should be exciting are cinematics. Just look at boarding other ships. This had the ability to be fun and exciting as you jump onto another ship, fight it out and loot their cargo, but this is just a cinematic. No gameplay, just pull up alongside the ship and play the cinematic. It's not like this is out-of-the-box thinking. Ubisoft promised Skull and Bones to be a standalone Black Flag game, and Black Flag had the option to board ships, and this was actual gameplay, and not a cinematic. So 9 years later, how has Ubisoft gone backwards? Another area highlighted by fans where gameplay looks clunky is collecting resources. It looks like a mobile arcade game where you pull alongside and just tap the screen. It's not what players expected to see in an open-world pirate experience. There are some good ideas with features and gameplay mechanics. Attacking forts and settlements can be fun and challenging, but even then, in some of the gameplay, it looks weird. In a lot of cases you're locked to your ship, which forces the experience to be linear as you're forced to do things in a certain way. Don't get me wrong, this could still be a good game, and of course, you should never judge a game based on the initial trailers. There have been many games in the past that look amazing, which ended up being awful, but on the other hand, there have been many games which look awful, which end up being fun. As for gameplay you can look forward to, there is a reputation system in Skull and Bones is called infamy. The higher your infamy, the more stuff you unlock and the more stuff you can do. You can increase your infamy by completing contracts. Contracts are deals that you can make with other pirates in the world. These contracts can be extremely rewarding if you're successful, but on the other hand, they can also be costly if you fail. There are other ways to increase your infamy, such as exploration, plundering, treasure hunts, investigations, dynamic events, and much more. Pretty much every activity in the game will reward you with infamy, but depending on the difficulty or risk involved will depend on the infamy payout. You don't just need to focus on increasing your infamy, you also need to build up your resources. You will need to harvest materials from islands such as ore and wood, plus there are also animals that you will need to hunt. All of these resources can be used for crafting, whether it's getting skins and meats or being refined for gear and ship improvements. You'll find blueprints as you explore Skull and Bones 7 Oceans. These might be offered as prizes for finishing tasks or stashed away at the base of treasure chests. They will be necessary for creating in the game. You may construct totally new ships, make new weapons and armor, and improve all of your ship's fittings using the blueprints and materials you uncover in the environment, whether they come from scouring shipwrecks, gathering natural resources, or hunting marine life. Skull and Bones will feature a variety of ship types, each with distinct advantages and disadvantages. Cargo ships, navigation ships, and firepower ships were the three categories that Ubisoft confirmed at the Ubisoft Forward. There may be other types that we haven't seen yet, but these are the main ones, and each type has a number of hull variations, so there will be many options to select the ideal ship for your playstyle. While you and your crew are exploring the seas in your ship, you will encounter land. And where there is land, you can be sure to find people living in encampments, settlements, and even pockets of civilization. The locations you encounter can be roughly categorized into forts and settlements. All of them are controlled and run by various local factions. Most will allow you to conduct trade and buy supplies if you are on good or at least neutral terms with them. The locations are further categorized into different tiers from 1 to 3. Higher tiers correlate with the types of resources and level of resistance that can be expected. If you are starting out and your vessel's armor and armaments haven't been battle-tested, you will want to stick with the lower tiers until you and your ship is more capable. After starting a plunder, there are several possible outcomes. The plunder can fail when the defenders are successful at repelling the attack by sinking our ship, or you flee the area before being able to find any loot. It will be a partial success if you leave the area before the location has been thoroughly plundered. There is no shame in cutting our losses if things are going poorly and the resistance encountered was stronger than expected. You will take a hit to your infamy, but you will still have a working ship, and we get to keep the loot that was brought aboard. The preferable outcome is to remain in the area taking care of any static defenses while fighting reinforcements long enough to finish pillaging the place and recover all the valuables we could find before sailing off triumphantly. Character customization is within the game. With the loot you find, you can travel to a nearby den or outpost and use your winnings to customize your character with the latest weaponry and clothing. This also crosses over to ship customization options, where you can change the looks of your pirate ship. These changes add no core functionality but will definitely show your experience to other players in the game. There are definitely good gameplay mechanics available, but most comments surrounding Skull and Bones are negative. For a lot of fans, they have been waiting for a very long time only to receive a game that was not originally promised. This very well could be a good game for a different type of player, but with this, we just need to wait and see. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more from me, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload.